The main Void fleet arrived like a cancer spreading across space itself. Captain Jake Thompson watched from his fighter as tiers in reality opened beyond the edge of the solar system. What emerged wasn't ships or creatures. It was the absence of everything. Holes in existence that consumed light, matter, and even time. All forces, this is Admiral Korthak. The Cathari commander's voice reached every human, dragon, and Cathari mind through their new shared network. The enemy comes, not to conquer but to erase. Today we fight not for territory or resources, but for the right to exist at all. Pilot Amy Brooks found herself in a fighter that barely resembled the plane she had started with. Thunder's magic had transformed it into something that existed partially in dragon space, where will-shaped reality. Her instruments showed impossible readings, weapons powered by hope, shields made of determination, engines that ran on the simple desire to protect others. "Ready, young Amy?" Thunder asked, his massive form flying beside her transformed fighter. "As ready as anyone can be to fight nothingness itself," she replied. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Global Command Center, watching displays that showed the approaching Void Armada. The ancient machines beneath Mount Rushmore were fully active. Now, their power flowing through hidden networks to dragon sanctuaries worldwide. Humanity's imagination was being transformed into literal force, dreams becoming weapons. "Dr. Foster," she called to the quantum physicist. "Status on the reality. Generators? Online and stable. We're creating a bubble of super-existence around Earth. The Void creatures will find it much harder to unmake anything inside our field." On the surface, Commander Kate Sullivan led combined human Cathari ground forces in protecting the generator sites. The enemy had started sending smaller Void entities to attack the planet directly. These creatures looked like tears in the air that moved with malevolent purpose, trying to consume the machines that anchored reality itself. "Remember," she told her troops, "these things want to erase you from existence. Don't let them touch you, and when you fire, believe that your bullets can hurt impossible things." A young Cathari soldier named Zithka fought alongside human Marines for the first time. His bio-rifle adapted to work with human determination, creating ammunition that could wound creatures made of nothingness. "Human Kate," he asked, "why? Do you fight so hard for our people when we came to conquer yours?" Kate smiled while firing at a Void creature. "Because that's what humans do. We protect people who need protecting, even if they used to be our enemies." In space, the Allied fleet prepared for the largest battle in galactic history. Human ships flew in formation with Cathari biovessels and ancient dragons. The sight should have been impossible. 3 completely different forms of life working as one force. But the impossible was becoming normal as reality itself grew stronger around Earth. Aurelius, the Golden Dragon, spread his wings wide as he addressed the entire fleet. "For 10,000 years, the Void has consumed world after world because it faced only fear and desperation. Today it faces something new, hope united with purpose, imagination given form, the will to exist stronger than the desire to unmake." The first wave of Void entities reached the outer solar system. They moved like living shadows, their forms constantly shifting between dimensions. Where they passed, asteroids and space debris simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased. From the universe's memory, Admiral Korthak commanded the right flank of the Allied fleet. His bioships had been enhanced by dragon magic and human technology, creating vessels that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. "All Cathari ships, remember, we are not conquering today. We are creating. Every shot you fire is a declaration that life has value." Amy led her squadron into the heart of the enemy formation. Her transformed fighter moved through patterns that defied physics, guided by Thunder's combat instincts and powered by her own refusal to accept defeat. Around her, human and Cathari pilots performed miracles of coordination, their different flying styles blending into something greater than either could achieve alone. "Thunder, there are so many of them." "Yes, young Amy. But count also our allies. Every human who dreams of tomorrow, every Cathari who chooses hope over despair, every dragon who remembers why existence is worth defending. We are outnumbered by the Void, but not by life itself." The battle reached its turning point when the largest void entity emerged from the deepest tear in space. It was the size of Earth's moon, a concentration of pure unmaking that had consumed entire star systems. Its presence began to unravel the edges of the solar system, causing distant planets to flicker in and out of existence. Dr. Foster watched the readings in horror. "Dr. Rodriguez, that thing is too big. It's going to destabilize the entire reality field." Elena closed her eyes and reached out through the Dragon Network to every human mind on Earth. "All civilians, we need you now. Everyone who has ever hoped for a better tomorrow. Everyone who has ever chosen to help someone else, focus that feeling and send it to us." Across Earth, 7 billion humans responded. Children in school shelters, families in their homes, elderly, people in hospitals, all focused their hopes and dreams through the network. The power that flowed through the reality generators increased 1,000-fold. Amy felt the change in her fighter. Suddenly she wasn't just a pilot anymore. She was connected to every human who had ever looked at the stars and dreamed of exploration. Her weapons became expressions of humanity's curiosity. Her shields became the determination to protect what was precious. Thunder, I can feel all of them. Everyone who wants to see tomorrow. Then show the void what tomorrow looks like, young Amy. She flew her fighter directly at the massive void entity, her weapons charging with the combined will of an entire species. Behind her, Jake led every available ship in a coordinated attack. Human fighters, Cathari bioships, and dragons all converged on the creature of nothingness. The entity tried to unmake them as they approached, but it found that the allied forces had become too real to be erased. They existed not just as matter and energy, but as the universe's own desire to continue being. Amy's fighter reached the void entity first. Instead of firing weapons, she did something impossible. She opened her mind completely and shared humanity's greatest gift with the creature of nothingness. She showed it imagination, the ability to envision things that didn't yet exist and work to make them real. For a moment that lasted forever, the void entity experienced something it had never known, the desire to create instead of destroy. The confusion paralyzed it long enough for the combined fleet to strike. Dragons breathed pure creation at the creature. Cathari bioships fired life force that countered nothingness. Human weapons, powered by 7 billion dreams, punched holes in unreality itself. The massive void entity began to collapse, not destroyed, but transformed. As it fell apart, Amy saw something incredible. Within the darkness were the remnants of worlds it had consumed, species it had erased, kept in stasis within its non-being. "Aurelius," she called through the network. "The erased worlds are still there. They're trapped inside the void." The golden dragon understood immediately. "All forces, focus on liberation, not destruction. Free what was lost." The battle became something unprecedented. Not a fight to destroy an enemy, but an effort to save the victims trapped within it. As the void entities were defeated, worlds began to reappear. Species that had been erased from existence found themselves restored. Admiral Korthak watched in amazement as his homeworld of Kethmore shimmered back into reality. "Impossible. The void consumed it 3 years ago." "Nothing is impossible when enough beings choose to make it possible," Aurelius replied. The remaining void entities began to retreat, fleeing back through the tears in space. But as they left, something extraordinary happened. Some of the smaller, void creatures stopped fleeing. They turned toward the Allied fleet and simply stayed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez felt them through the network, alien minds that had been part of the Void Collective, but were now experiencing choice for the first time. They had seen imagination and hope, and they wanted to learn what it meant to exist rather than simply unmake. "They're surrendering," she whispered in amazement. Commander Kate Sullivan watched from Earth's surface as the battle ended, not with destruction, but with transformation. The void tiers were closing, but they left behind something new, a region of space where existence was stronger than it had ever been before, where life could flourish in ways previously impossible. Amy landed, her fighter on the flagship, her hands shaking as the magnitude of what they had accomplished hit her. Thunder landed beside her, his scales now glowing with colors that had no names. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." "No, young Amy. We began it. This was just the first battle in a new kind of war. A war fought with creation instead of destruction, hope instead of fear." In the months that followed, Earth became the center of something unprecedented in galactic history. The Terra Dragon Alliance welcomed refugees from across the galaxy, not just survivors of the void, but species fleeing other conflicts, other forms of despair. Captain Jake Thompson, now Admiral Thompson, stood on the bridge of humanity's first joint human-dragon Cathari starship. They were departing. The salvage ship Star Hunter docked with the research station Aurora at exactly 14:30 station time. Captain Ben Morris had seen many strange things in his 20 years of deep space salvage, but nothing like the unconscious figure strapped to the medical gurney his crew wheeled into the station's medical bay. Dr. Elena Martinez looked up from her reports as the automatic doors slid open. The patient they brought in should have been dead. His body was covered in plasma burns that went deep into the muscle tissue. 3 ribs were broken, his left arm was fractured in 2 places, and the radiation scanner beside his gurney was clicking frantically. "Where did you find him?" Elena asked as she pulled on her medical gloves. "Floating in a damaged escape pod near the Kepler debris field," Captain Morris replied. "Pod was barely holding together. Life support had been offline for at least 6 hours. Elena frowned as she examined the patient. He looked humanoid but different somehow. His bone structure was heavier than most species she knew. His skin had a strange quality to it, almost like it was made to handle extreme conditions. Most disturbing of all, despite injuries that should have killed him 3 times over, his vital signs were stable. "Get him to examination room 3, she told Nurse Katie Williams, "and run a full biological scan. I want to know what species we're dealing with." Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ryan Clark arrived just as they moved the patient to the examination room. He was a Centauri, tall and thin with silver skin that reflected the medical bay's bright lights. His forearms moved quickly as he began connecting monitoring equipment to the patient. "Radiation levels are off the charts," Ryan said, his voice carrying the musical tone of his species. "He should be dead from poisoning alone." Elena ran her scanner over the patient's chest. The readings made no sense. His bone density was 3 times normal for any humanoid species. His muscle fibers were packed so tightly they looked like cables under the skin. Most strange of all, the plasma burns were already beginning to heal. "Katie, pull up the medical database," Elena called out. "Cross-reference these biological readings with known species." Katie's fingers danced over the holographic controls. Data flowed across the screens around them. After several minutes, she shook her head. "Nothing matches, Doctor. His cellular structure doesn't fit any known classification." The patient's breathing was deep and steady despite his injuries. Elena noticed something else odd. His body temperature was higher than normal, but not from fever. It seemed like his metabolism was running at an accelerated rate, pushing healing and recovery beyond anything she had seen before. "Ryan, look." "At these blood chemistry results," Elena said, pointing to the holographic display floating above the examination table. "His blood can carry almost twice the oxygen of a normal humanoid, and these proteins, I've never seen anything like them." Ryan's large black eyes studied the data. "It's like his entire biology is designed for survival in extreme conditions. Look at this. His liver can process toxins that would kill most species instantly." Hours passed as they ran test after test. The patient remained unconscious, but his body continued to heal at an impossible rate. The broken ribs were already showing signs of mending. The plasma burns were shrinking as new skin formed over them. Katie was monitoring the patient's brain activity when something strange happened. The emergency communication system activated, playing a recorded message about the dead zones, regions of space where ancient civilizations had once lived, but now showed no signs of life. As the message played, the patient's neural activity spiked dramatically. "Did you see that?" Katie asked, pointing to the brain activity monitor. Elena watched as the patient's mind reacted to certain words in the broadcast. Whenever the message mentioned extinct civilizations or vanished species, his brain patterns became extremely active, as if the words had deep meaning for him. "Play it again," Elena ordered. They repeated the emergency broadcast 3 more times. Each time, the same reaction occurred. The patient's unconscious mind was responding to something specific in those messages. "I'm going to run a genetic analysis," Elena decided. "If his species isn't in the medical database, maybe the archaeological records will have something." The genetic scanner hummed as it analyzed samples of the patient's blood and tissue. The process would take several hours, so Elena decided to check on other patients while they waited. Commander Lisa Harper arrived in the medical bay just as Elena returned. Lisa was human-looking, but from the Terran colonies that had spread throughout the galaxy. She had short brown hair and the kind of serious expression that came from years of making difficult decisions. "How is our mystery patient?" Lisa asked. "Alive, which is impossible," Elena replied. "His injuries should have killed him, but he's healing faster than any species I know. We're running genetic analysis now to try to identify what he is." Lisa studied the patient through the examination room's transparent wall. Something about him seemed familiar, but she couldn't place what it was. Any idea how long he was in that escape pod? Based on the damage and life support logs, at least 6 hours without oxygen or heat. The radiation exposure alone should have been fatal. A soft chime indicated that the genetic analysis was complete. Elena, Ryan, Katie, and Lisa gathered around. The main display as the results appeared. The screen filled with data, but one line stood out above all others. It flashed red, indicating a priority alert. Elena read the classification aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. "Extinct species survivor, Homo sapiens Terran. Warning, historical danger. Rating, extreme." The medical bay fell silent. Everyone knew the stories about humans, the ancient species that had once been so dangerous that the entire galaxy had to work together to contain them. They were myths, legends told to young ones about the importance of cooperation and peace. But here, lying unconscious on their examination table, was proof that the myths were real. "That's impossible," Lisa said finally. "Humans went extinct centuries ago. Everyone knows that." Elena looked at the genetic analysis again. The computer was certain. The patient was human, a member of the most feared species in galactic history, a species that was supposed to be gone forever. Katie checked the historical database, her hands shaking slightly as she accessed files most people never looked at. The records say humans were contained on their home planet over 500 years ago. There were no survivors. Ryan's forearms moved nervously as he processed the information. "If he's really human, we need to contact the authorities immediately. Galactic law requires—" "Wait," Elena interrupted. "Before we do anything, I want to understand what we're dealing with. This patient hasn't shown any signs of aggression. He's injured and unconscious. We're doctors first." Lisa nodded slowly. "Elena's right, but we need to be very careful. If the stories about humans are even partly true, everything just became much more complicated." Outside the examination room, their impossible patient continued to heal, unaware that his very existence had just turned the galaxy's understanding of history upside down. Jake Adams opened his eyes to bright lights and the sound of alien voices speaking in languages he didn't recognize. His body ached, but it was the kind of ache that came with healing, not dying. He tried to sit up and immediately felt gentle but firm hands pushing him back down. "Easy there," a female voice said in accented galactic standard. "You've been unconscious for 2 days." Jake turned his head to see a woman with dark hair wearing medical clothes. Behind her stood several other figures, a tall, thin being with silver skin and 4 arms, a shorter creature with blue-tinted skin, and another human-looking woman with brown hair who carried herself like a military officer. "Where am I?" Jake asked, his throat dry and rough. "You're aboard the research station, Aurora," the doctor replied. "I'm Dr. Elena Martinez. You were found floating in an escape pod near the Kepler debris field. Do you remember what happened?" Jake closed his eyes and tried to think. Images flashed through his mind. His ship being pulled into some kind of energy field, emergency protocols activating, climbing into the escape pod as reality itself seemed to bend around them. There was an anomaly, some kind of temporal distortion. My ship got caught in it. What ship? The military woman asked, stepping closer. I'm Commander Lisa Harper. We need to know where you came from. Jake studied their faces, noting the mix of curiosity and fear in their expressions. Something was wrong. These people looked at him like he was dangerous, but also like he was impossible. I'm from the exploration vessel New Horizon. We were mapping the Outer Rim territories for the colonial administration. The four-armed being spoke up, his voice musical and strange. There is no colonial administration in this sector. What year do you think it is? 2387, Jake answered without hesitation. The silence that followed his answer was heavy with meaning. Dr. Martinez exchanged glances with the others before speaking carefully. Jake, I need you to listen to me. The year is 2891. You've been missing for over 500 years. Jake stared at her, trying to process what she had said. 500 years. Everyone he had ever known was dead. Earth, his family, his friends, all gone. But something else bothered him more than the time loss. You know my name, he said slowly. How do you know my name? Commander Harper stepped forward. We ran genetic analysis on your blood. The computer identified you as human. According to our records, humans have been extinct for centuries. Jake sat up despite their protests, his enhanced muscles easily overcoming their attempts to keep him lying down. Extinct? What are you talking about? There were billions of humans across dozens of worlds when I left. Dr. Martinez pulled up a holographic display showing historical records. According to galactic history, humans were contained on Earth in 2398. They went silent after that. No communication, no contact. The entire species was declared extinct 50 years later. Jake read through the displayed information, his face growing darker with each line. The records painted humans as aggressive conquerors who had to be stopped before they destroyed everything. Wars, battles, a final desperate alliance of alien species working together to contain the human threat. This is wrong, Jake said, his voice growing harder. We weren't conquerors. We were explorers. Yes, we defended ourselves when attacked, but we were trying to build something better. The historical records say otherwise, the blue-skinned being said nervously. Humans were known for their violence and unpredictability. Jake stood up, and everyone in the room took a step back. He was taller than most of them, and his body moved with a fluid strength that spoke of enhanced physiology. But instead of threatening them, he simply walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Tell me about these dead zones, he said quietly. I heard the emergency broadcasts, regions where civilizations vanished without explanation. Elena consulted her data pad. There are 17 known dead zones scattered across the galaxy. They were once home to thriving civilizations, but now they're empty. No life signs, no energy signatures, no clues about what happened. Jake turned back to face them. What if I told you that humans didn't go extinct? What if we found a way? Past your containment? The room fell silent again. Commander Harper's hand moved unconsciously toward her sidearm. What do you mean? I mean, humans do what humans always do. We adapt. When you trapped us on Earth, we didn't just sit there and accept it. We found a way out. The temporal anomaly that caught my ship, that wasn't natural. It was one of our exploration methods. Dr. Martinez leaned forward, fascinated despite her fear. You're saying humans developed time travel? Not exactly time travel. Dimensional shifting. We learned to move between layers of space-time. The dead zones you mentioned, they're not empty. They're transformed. Jake walked back to the bed and sat down, noting how everyone relaxed slightly when he wasn't standing. My mission was to scout the primary timeline, what you call normal space. I was supposed to gather information about how the galaxy had developed in our absence. You're saying there are more humans? Lisa asked. Millions of them. Billions, maybe. We didn't die out, Commander. We evolved. We found ways to survive that your species can't even imagine. Elena's medical curiosity overcame her caution. Your physiology is unlike anything we've seen. Enhanced bone density, accelerated, healing, radiation resistance. How is that possible? 500 years of genetic modification and enhancement. When you're forced to survive in places where normal biology fails, you adapt. My people have lived in the vacuum of space, on planets with crushing gravity, in radiation fields that would sterilize entire star systems. The four-armed doctor, who had introduced himself as Ryan, studied Jake with professional interest. The stories about human adaptability weren't myths. Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know the truth about humans? We're not the monsters your history books describe. We're survivors. Give us any challenge, any impossible situation, and we'll find a way through it. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons or our aggression, but our refusal to accept limitations. Commander Harper was quiet for a long moment before speaking. If what you're saying is true, if there are still humans out there with technology we can't understand, why haven't they made contact? Because they were waiting to see what you'd become, Jake replied. My mission was to determine if the galaxy was ready for humanity's return, whether you'd grown beyond the fear and hatred that drove you to imprison us in the first place. Elena looked at the others, then back at Jake. And what's your assessment? Jake studied each of their faces, the curiosity in Elena's eyes, the military caution in Lisa's posture, the scientific fascination in Ryan's expression, the nervous fear in Katie's stance. I think you're about to find out. My ship sent a signal when it was destroyed. My people know I'm here. What kind of signal? Lisa asked, her commander instincts taking over. The kind that tells them whether I'm safe or in danger, whether you're treating me as a patient or a prisoner. Jake met her eyes directly. So far you've been doctors and hosts, but I can see the fear in your eyes. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Outside the station, deep space sensors began picking up unusual energy readings from the galactic rim. Something was coming, moving faster than any known technology should allow. The readings were faint but growing stronger, heading directly for the aurora. Jake felt it too, a subtle vibration that his enhanced senses could detect. His people were coming, and the galaxy was about to discover that humanity's 500-year absence had not been spent in extinction but in transformation. 3 days after Jake Adams had awakened, the research station Aurora was running more efficiently than it had in years. The improvement started small. Jake noticed that the medical bay's air recycling system was making an unusual noise. While Dr. Martinez was busy with other patients, he had quietly fixed the problem using nothing but a damaged scanner and some spare wiring. How did you know what was wrong? Elena asked when she discovered what he had done. Jake shrugged as he tested the now silent air system. The sound it was making told me the intake valve was sticking. Simple fix once you understand the problem. But it wasn't simple, and Elena knew it. The repair Jake had made would have taken their engineering team 3 days and a full system. Diagnostic. He had done it in 20 minutes with improvised tools. Word of Jake's repair skills spread quickly through the station. Chief Engineer Carl Williams asked him to look at a problematic fusion regulator that had been causing power fluctuations for weeks. Jake spent an hour examining the system, then made 3 small adjustments. The power fluctuations stopped immediately. I don't understand, Carl said, staring at his readings. These modifications shouldn't work according to our engineering principles. Your engineering principles are fine, Jake replied. You just haven't considered all the variables. This regulator was designed to handle standard operational stress, but you're using it beyond its intended parameters. My adjustments compensate for the extra load. Dr. Ryan Clark had been documenting Jake's recovery with growing amazement. The human's broken ribs had completely healed in 4 days. The plasma burns were now just faint marks on his skin. Most remarkable of all, Jake's body seemed to be adapting to the station's environment in real time. Your cellular structure is changing, Ryan told Jake during a routine examination. Your metabolism has adjusted to our atmosphere mix. Your blood chemistry has shifted to process our food more efficiently. How is this possible? Human biology is highly adaptive, Jake explained. We've had to survive in so many different environments that our bodies learn to adjust quickly. It's not conscious. It just happens. Elena had been studying Jake's blood samples under high magnification. What she found challenged everything she knew about biology. Your cells contain structures I don't recognize. They seem to serve multiple functions: healing, adaptation, enhancement. It's like your entire body is a living laboratory. Jake nodded. 500 years of genetic modification will do that. My generation was designed to survive anywhere, under any conditions. We're not quite the same species that was contained on Earth. The implications of this were staggering. If humans had spent centuries enhancing themselves for survival, what else had they learned to do? Commander Lisa Harper found herself both fascinated and deeply worried about the answer. Her concerns grew when Jake casually reprogrammed the station's defense grid during his second week aboard. He had been in the security center when alarms began sounding. A small asteroid was approaching on a collision course. The automated systems were struggling to calculate a solution when Jake stepped in. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the control console. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. Jake's fingers moved across the holographic controls with impossible speed and precision. Within seconds, the defense grid locked onto the asteroid and vaporized it with the efficiency that stunned the security staff. "How did you do that so quickly?" Lisa asked. "Your targeting system was trying to calculate too many variables," Jake explained. "I simplified the equation. Sometimes the direct approach is better than the complex one." Later, when Lisa reviewed the security recordings, she realized that Jake hadn't just improved their targeting, he had completely rewritten the defense protocol in real time. What should have taken weeks of programming, he had accomplished in moments. Research specialist Dr. Alex Chen had been investigating the historical record since Jake's arrival. What he found buried in the station's deep archives made him call an emergency meeting with the senior staff. "I've discovered encrypted data packets hidden in our archaeological databases," Alex announced to the gathered officers. "They're human in origin, dated from the final days before Earth went silent." The packets contained personal logs, technical specifications, and most disturbing of all, evacuation plans. Elena listened to audio recordings of human voices describing their preparations for something called the Great Departure. "They weren't trapped," Alex said, his voice shaking slightly. "They were planning to leave. The barrier the Galactic Alliance created around Earth wasn't a prison, it was cover for their escape." Jake confirmed their worst fears when they confronted him with the evidence. "Earth was never our only home," he said calmly. "By the time you contained us, we had colonies throughout our solar system and beyond. The barrier just bought us time to develop the technology we needed for the next phase." "What next phase?" Elena demanded. "Exploration beyond this dimension. We learn to move between layers of reality, to find worlds and possibilities that exist outside normal space-time. The dead zones you've detected aren't empty, they're transformed." Dr. Chen pulled up stellar charts showing the dead zone locations. "You're saying humans did this, moved entire civilizations?" "Some of them, yes. When we found species that were dying out or trapped by their own limitations, we offered them a choice. Stay and face extinction, or come with us and evolve into something greater." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Elena was the first to speak. "You're talking about playing God with entire species?" "No," Jake replied firmly. "We're talking about offering choices. Every species we encountered was given the same option: remain as they were, or transform into something capable of surviving what's coming." "What's coming?" Lisa asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to hear the answer. Jake walked to the main display and called up a star chart that showed energy readings from across the galaxy. "The universe is changing, Commander. Dark matter concentrations are increasing. Stellar formations are becoming unstable. In another 1,000 years, this region of space will be uninhabitable by normal matter." The data he showed them painted a picture of cosmic catastrophe on a scale beyond imagination. Elena stared at the projections, trying to understand what she was seeing. "You're saying the galaxy is dying?" "Not dying, evolving. The same way species evolve to survive environmental changes. Reality itself is changing. Most civilizations won't survive the transition, but they don't have to face extinction if they're willing to adapt. Ryan's forearms gestured nervously as he processed the information. And humans have found a way to survive this transition? We found several ways. Dimensional shifting is just one of them. We've learned to exist as energy patterns, to store consciousness in crystalline matrices, to merge organic and quantum structures. The possibilities are limitless once you stop thinking in terms of current limitations. Commander Harper felt the weight of command pressing down on her. If this is true, if humans really have this technology, why are you here alone? Why not send a diplomatic mission? Jake's expression grew serious. Because first contact needed to be careful. We needed to know if you'd grown beyond the fear that made you our enemies. If you'd learned to see possibilities instead of threats. And what's your assessment? Elena asked quietly. Before Jake could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. The long-range sensors had detected massive energy signatures approaching from the galactic rim. The readings showed technology far beyond anything in their databases, moving at impossible speeds. Jake listened to the alarm patterns and nodded slowly. You're about to get your answer, Doctor. My people are here. Outside the station, space itself began to shimmer as something vast and incomprehensible, prepared to emerge from dimensions that normal physics couldn't describe. The galaxy was about to meet humanity once again, and this time, humanity was coming home as something far, more than anyone remembered. The first sign that everything had changed was the silence. Every communication channel in the sector went dead at exactly 15:47 station time. Not jammed or blocked, simply quiet, as if someone had reached across space and politely asked all the noise to stop. Commander Lisa Harper stood in the Aurora's command center, watching displays that showed readings her instruments couldn't fully interpret. The approaching energy signatures were massive, but they moved through space in ways that defied physics. They seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, appearing on sensors as both solid matter and pure energy. How many ships? She asked. Chief Tactical Officer Dan Roberts. That's the problem, Commander. The sensors can't tell. Sometimes they read as a single massive vessel, sometimes as hundreds of smaller ones. It's like they exist in a state of quantum uncertainty. Dr. Elena Martinez had brought Jake Adams to the command center despite security protocols. If humanity was returning to the galaxy, they needed their only human advisor present. Jake stood calmly beside the tactical display, watching the approaching signals with an expression of quiet satisfaction. Can you tell us what we're looking at? Elena asked him. A diplomatic fleet, Jake replied. Probably about 50 ships carrying cultural specialists, scientists, and engineers. They're running, in dimensional overlay mode, existing partially in normal space and partially in parallel dimensions. It makes them harder to target but easier to communicate with. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. Harder to target? Old habits from the war years, Jake explained. We learned to be careful around species that might shoot first and ask questions later. The main display flickered and suddenly showed a clear image of space ahead of the station. Where before there had been only distant stars, now a fleet of ships hung in the void. They were beautiful and terrifying. Organic curves merged with crystalline structures, hulls that seemed to shift between solid metal and flowing energy. Incoming transmission, Communications Officer Amy Foster reported. It's on a frequency I've never seen before. Put it through, Lisa ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was clearly human, speaking galactic standard with the accent Jake had carried. Research Station Aurora, this is Captain Sam Rodriguez of the Terran Exploration Fleet. We request permission to establish diplomatic contact. We have one of our people aboard your station. Lisa looked at Jake, who nodded encouragingly. This is Commander Harper. We have Jake Adams in our medical care. He's been cooperative and helpful. There was a pause before Captain Rodriguez responded. Thank you for caring for our scout, Commander. We would like to discuss the terms of his return and establish formal contact between our civilizations. Your scout? Elena whispered to Jake. I told you I was on a reconnaissance mission. Jake replied quietly. though I didn't expect to be gone this long. Lisa keyed the communication system. Captain Rodriguez, we welcome diplomatic contact. Will you be coming aboard? With your permission, yes. I'll bring a small diplomatic team. We understand this is a significant moment for both our peoples. Within the hour, a small craft detached itself from the human fleet. It moved toward the Aurora with the same impossible grace as the larger ships, seeming to fold space around itself rather than traveling through it. Dr. Ryan Clark monitored the approaching vessel with growing amazement. The energy readings from that small ship are greater than our entire station's power output. What kind of technology are they using? Quantum manipulation combined with dimensional physics, Jake answered. When you have access to parallel dimensions, energy becomes much easier to manage. The human shuttle docked with the station's main bay. Lisa assembled a diplomatic team consisting of herself, Elena, Ryan, and Alex Chen. They waited in the docking bay as the shuttle's doors opened with a soft hiss. Captain Sam Rodriguez stepped out first. He was tall and lean like Jake, but his eyes held depths that spoke of experiences beyond normal human understanding. Behind him came 3 other humans, 2 women and 1 man, all carrying themselves with the same enhanced grace that Jake possessed. Commander Harper, Captain Rodriguez said, extending his hand in the ancient human gesture of greeting. Thank you for receiving us. Lisa shook his hand, noting that his grip was firm but carefully controlled. Welcome aboard, Captain. We're honored by your visit, though I admit we're not sure what protocols apply to this situation. Rodriguez smiled. Neither are we, Commander. It's been a long time since humans and the galactic community have spoken directly. Elena stepped forward. I'm Dr. Martinez. I've been caring for Jake during his recovery. His physiology is remarkable. Jake was part of our enhanced scout program, Rodriguez explained, designed to survive conditions that would kill normal humans. We're grateful for your medical care. Ryan approached cautiously, his forearms moving in a gesture of scientific respect. Captain, your technology appears to operate on principles we don't understand. Would it be possible to exchange scientific information? That's part of why we're here, Dr. Clark. Humanity has learned much during our time away. We believe it's time to share some of that knowledge. They moved to the station's main conference room, where Rodriguez's team set up devices that projected 3-dimensional displays showing star charts unlike anything the station's crew had ever seen. Instead of simple stellar positions, these charts showed layers of reality, parallel dimensions, and energy flows that connected distant parts of the galaxy. This is how we see space now, Rodriguez explained, not as empty void between stars, but as a complex structure of interconnected dimensions. Most of what you call empty space is actually filled with parallel realities. Alex Chen studied the displays with fascination. The dead zones we've detected, are they connected to this? In a way, yes. Those zones aren't empty. They're transformed. We offered certain species the opportunity to evolve beyond their current limitations. Some accepted. Elena leaned forward. What kind of evolution are you talking about? Rodriguez gestured to one of his team members, a woman with silver hair who seemed to shimmer slightly around the edges. Dr. Sarah Kim was originally from the Altarian colonies. Her people were facing extinction due to stellar radiation changes. We offered them a choice: remain as they were and die, or transform into beings capable of existing in multiple dimensions. Dr. Kim smiled, and for a moment, Elena could see through her as if she were made of light. The transition was difficult but worth it. We can now exist in environments that would instantly kill our original forms. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. You're changing entire species? We're offering choices, Rodriguez corrected. No one is forced to transform, but when the alternative is extinction, many choose evolution. Jake had been quiet during the exchange, but now he spoke up. The galaxy is approaching a crisis point. Cosmic changes that will make most current worlds uninhabitable. My people have found ways to survive what's coming. What kind of crisis? Lisa demanded. Rodriguez activated another display showing energy patterns across the galaxy. Dark matter concentrations are increasing exponentially. Stellar formation patterns are destabilizing. Within 1,000 years, this entire region will be uninhabitable by conventional matter. The implications were staggering. Elena stared at the projections, trying to comprehend the scale of what they were describing. And you can prevent this? We can help species adapt to it, Rodriguez replied. The universe is evolving, Commander. The question is whether the life within it will evolve too, or be left behind. Ryan's voice carried a note of fear. What exactly are you proposing? Rodriguez looked around the table at each of them. Partnership. We return to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as teachers. We offer technology, knowledge, and choices. Those who wish to remain as they are will be helped to find safe havens. Those who choose transformation will be guided through the process. And, if we refuse? Lisa asked. Then you continue as you are, Rodriguez said simply. But when the cosmic changes reach their peak, you'll face them alone. Outside the conference room, long-range sensors detected massive energy buildups throughout the galaxy. Ancient defense systems were coming online as species that remembered the old stories about humans prepared for what they believed would be a war. The irony wasn't lost on Jake. The galaxy was preparing to fight the very people who had come to save it. Captain Rodriguez felt it too, the rising tension from dozens of star systems. It seems some of your neighbors remember us less fondly than you do. Lisa checked her communication logs and found them filled with emergency broadcasts. Half the galaxy was mobilizing for war against an enemy that had come in peace. We need to establish communications with the other powers, she said. Make them understand that you're not here to conquer. Rodriguez nodded sadly. We expected this reaction. Fear dies slowly, Commander, but we have time to prove our intentions. The question was whether the galaxy would give them that time or, if ancient fears would trigger a conflict that could destroy everything, both sides were trying to protect.